everybody. I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, normally here I would say spoiler alert, but we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're actually going to be doing a retro recap, which is going to be us going through one of our favorite older movies. And because it is still spooky season, we figured we're going to go through one of our favorites, one of the classic horror comedies from Peter Jackson himself, Frighteners. So if you haven't seen that movie yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to a streaming service like Peacock, check that out, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now with that out of the way, let's start the show!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, join with me to break down everything from the Frighteners movie. It's Jon Jon Rico.
Hello.
Hello.
It is spooky season.
It's spooky season. Yeah, I mean, look, there's plenty of movies we could have gone through. I mean, just off the top of my head, we could do Shaun of the Dead. We could do there's a ton of like this, I guess, genre, the special genre where it's kind of like dark comedy, horror mixed together, but either way, there's no wrong answers here. So this is Retro Recap. We're going over an older movie. Most of us have seen this. If you haven't, strongly recommend that you see this movie because it's one of those under the radar, I feel like, classic like horror comedy movies.
Cult following.
Yeah, Michael J. Fox. Zemeckis is like one of the guys behind the scenes on this. Peter Jackson's behind the scenes. Like pre-Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson. Holy shit. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
I know, right? I mean, there's a lot to really like about this movie, and I before we even picked this one, we were talking about movies, and we kind of both agreed on this one because as soon as we said, like, as soon as it came up, we were like, oh shit, we should definitely do this one. There's a lot.
It just came out on Peacock not too long ago too.
Right,
so
right.
That's why what brought it up, and I was like, oh, here's a nice blast from the past.
Exactly. There's a ton to like about this. So rewatching this, because obviously, you know, I rewatched it, you know, to get ready for this. Rewatching this, I completely forgot how fucking terrifying that opening scene is. With the first time you're actually seeing like the I guess monster, the Grim Reaper, or what we're led to believe is the Grim Reaper, like terrorizing Patricia and her mother in the big giant house. Like it's a cold open. It goes right to that. Like you get no introduction to our characters, no idea what's going on. So I had to bring that up immediately because it's like I was like, holy shit, like this is scary. And then we get into like kind of the main plot points. We get introduced to the main character, Michael J. Fox. His name is Frank in the movie, obviously. And the thing I love the best about Frank is he's introduced as a con man, but at the same time, he's on the level. He's really seeing everything. Like he is the real deal as far as we're concerned. He's seeing spirits. He's able to interact with them and kind of build his con business on the fact that he can interact with all of these ghosts, and he has
using his abilities to con people out of money.
Yeah, but it's just funny because like nobody like really believes him. But at the same time, he really is on the level. Like you want to believe like all the paranormal investigators and stuff like that. But like, you know, 99% of the time they're not on the level. But like this is the 1% person who's actually on the level and is still using it as like a con. So like I just like how we have like this complex of a character type of thing where he's using his actual abilities to kind of con people out of it, like into using his services basically. But yeah, like I said, there's a ton of stuff to like about this movie. I like the balance that we get where it's like this kind of dark comedy. Like, it's not straight up comedy. Like, you know, I feel like more Shaun of the Dead is more actual comedy and horror.
Yeah, that's straight up comedy. Yeah.
Right. This is more of like That's kind of fun. Like just like little things that have like kind of light points in them and stuff like that. But yeah, heavy on the comedy. I think it's definitely a classic that I think is under the radar. A lot of people don't know about this movie. And yeah, I have nothing but good things. Even after the rewatch, I have nothing but good things to say. It still holds up as far as I'm concerned. But Rico, what are some of your reactions to the Frighteners in general?
Yeah, I absolutely love this movie. I remember as a kid scrolling through cable and like when you had all the movie channels, and I got saw the Frighteners with Michael J. Fox. I'm like, what's this movie? And I watched it, and it was like it made me laugh, but also scared the ever living shit out of me at the same time. Like, there's some pretty cool stuff in this movie. It's also like Michael J. Fox, like at the later end of his career, like it's kind of one of his last movies before like the Parkinson's and stuff really started to take over his body. But it's actually like it's a really good performance by him. Like I said, he kind of plays like this conflicted con man kind of a deal, who has like he has a heart, like he's got good intentions in some aspects, but of course he's got this kind of shitty reputation around this town, so it kind of forced him to use his abilities to do what he does.
Right.
And it's a pretty cool character arc that he goes through at that movie. But yeah, just kind of seeing like Peter Jackson do stuff that we kind of see him use in his bigger movies like Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and King Kong, stuff like that, but kind of see him use it on a smaller scale. And so it was really kind of cool to see. So it was really kind of like it was fun to watch from the perspective of seeing what he would become later on. Of course, like he's one of the great directors of our time now. And I really kind of wish we get to see him kind of do more small scale stuff like this. Like I know he did stuff, other kind of horror things like Mortal Engines or kind of like weird kind of off the wall stuff, but I want to kind of see him do more like kind of small scale, like small town stuff like this again. It'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree, and yeah, you can see. It's cool to be able to see whether you're talking about anything, whether you're talking like musical artists, whether you're talking director, anything like that. It's cooler to see the early stages of some of the stuff that when they became such a bigger name type of thing.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
this is one of those that I mean. Yeah, it's cool to see though, just like you exactly like you said. I'm in total agreement. I like being able to see some of the influences that kind of he built on later for his much bigger projects and stuff like that.
And the music by Danny Elfman
Oh
is
yeah,
incredible. It's so good. It feels very much. It feels like you're watching a Tim Burton movie at times. Like
yes,
the way the music kind of plays out because it just totally fits the mood of the movie. Like, usually if I think a horror comedy movie, I do think something like Tim Burton style, like like a Beetlejuice or something like that. And so like the way that Danny Elfman kind of fits this mold is just perfect, and it really complements the movie really well at times.
that's why I got really excited because I meant to put on our rundown. This is kind of like could be in the Beetlejuice universe type of thing,
Yeah,
like
a
just
Burton
kind of
film,
yeah,
definitely.
like
Yeah,
just kind of that feel to it. And it's as soon as you mentioned music, I was like, that it immediately popped right back in my head. So yeah,
yeah.
that was one of the comments I wanted to make was like it felt like it could have been on that level because it was like that kind of Beetlejuice ish kind of like
Mhm.
adjacent Beetlejuice adjacent type of kind of
Yeah,
movie.
for sure. Absolutely. It's
Um,
like if you took the cartooniness out of a Burton film and just, like, injected more horror aspects into it, and
right.
that's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah. You want to get to some big takeaways?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right. Why don't you kick off big takeaways?
Okay, there's a lot to talk about with this movie. One of the first things I want to talk about is the use of the ghosts in this movie. Of course, like Peter Jackson was kind of known for using this later on with the Lord of the Rings with the ghost army and stuff like that. But if he films real people and then puts the ghost effect on them later on, I think the way he utilizes that in the movie is just really fun. The two friends or I guess the three friends if you include Judge as well. But they're the comic relief really of the entire movie. There's that kind of like that opening balance of the first half of the movie where it's mostly comedy based, is not and kind of little sprinkles of the horror parts of it in there, and then later on in the movie it goes full on into the horror aspects when once all the ghosts are kind of taken out one by one. But I just really kind of like how that's like we were talking about earlier with Peter Jackson, kind of seeing what he would become later on. This is kind of what I was talking about when you see the way he uses ghosts in kind of like this practical way, but also he's still ahead of his time with like the effects and stuff like that. Like they don't really age as well when you watch him like a lot later on, but some of them still look pretty good. The ghosts still look great, of course, because they're real people. But yeah, I just like kind of seeing that kind of comparison later on. But also, Patricia and her mother scared the absolute shit out of me in this movie growing up. Mostly her mother because I was just the old lady with the wide eyes just kind of looking at you like, what are you doing in my house? And you were in my room and just stuff like that. And then seeing her get grisly murdered later on is just crazy enough. But then kind of Patricia's performance from being like this kind of like soft-spoken villain type woman, and then automatically like the switch kind of turns on. She turns into this ravenous killer going on a spree in the hospital with her ghost boyfriend.
Yeah.
It's just like a fantastic performance from the woman who played like the mom in ET, which is pretty crazy enough. Like I was like, who's this woman? Like, why is she so familiar to me? Because she seemed very like Carrie Fisher like in a sense, but yeah, she was the mom from ET, so that's who that was. And then of course Jake Busey being creepy while also funny at the same time. Very great performance for him as Bartlett, and yeah, and then of course you get the Arlie Ermy cameo as the drill sergeant ghost, which is amazing. Yeah, this movie has a really great balance of the comedy and the horror aspects, which I feel like we're missing some. I feel like now when we get these comedy horror things, it just kind of leans more into the comedy and less so into the horror. I kind of like the Haunted Mansion movies. Like obviously those are like the Disney movies, but like I think you should lean more into like how creepy some of this stuff is, while also sprinkling in some of the comedy as well. So
Yeah, definitely. You forgot one ghost, by the way. You forgot the ghost dog, which
the ghost dog.
I gotta say is one of my favorite parts. Like to just be able to have one of your pets just as a ghost form for forever. Like, and I mean, if you're Frank, you're able to pet it anytime you want. So just think about that. Sure. Your favorite pet you have for eternity.
There you go.
That's the dream. But yeah, I what's really crazy also is once they start taking out the ghosts, they're gone like right away. They just like shreds through everyone. Type of
sure.
thing. Like they're not holding anybody back. No, nothing. But okay, so the first thing I thought of was, I really like the way that we got the movie, but I was just like, as I'm watching it, I was like, there could have been a huge twist in this movie that none of us would have expected, especially with Michael J. Fox playing Frank. If they had made Frank like have a split personality and he was actually the murderer, or making like maybe like Bartlett's ghost controlling him while he sleeps, or something crazy like that, because I was just thinking of it because of an average town person that's in that town, Frank is is connected to every single one of these murders, basically,
right?
Type of thing. So like, I get it, he's being like set up like that type of thing, but like at the same time, that could have been a huge twist. Like I was thinking of kind of like, do you remember the movie? It was another like indie movie with Ryan Reynolds where he ended up being a serial killer and he was talking to animals. Do you remember?
Oh gosh, yeah,
I
remember. I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember the name of the movie.
I think it was called Voices.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And but like at the beginning, like first chunk of the movie, you do not think that Ryan Reynolds is capable of doing that. He's like got the demeanor of like, of like the main character who you just think like, oh, this is weird. He can talk to animals. Like, you know what I mean? Like I was not expecting kind of that twist. So like I was kind of thinking of it in terms of that, like where like all of a sudden, like towards the very end, it's the reveal is that, maybe it wasn't even in his control. Like maybe it was every time Frank went to sleep, Bartlett was controlling him type of thing. Like, something crazy like that. It just popped into my head and I definitely had to mention it. But the other thing I wanted to mention was, so two parts of this. And the first one I was talking to you about, that Lucy moves on suspiciously quick.
Boy, does she. Yeah. Poor Ray.
Suspiciously quick from her husband. It's like this movie takes place over the span of what, like 4 days, maybe 5. If we're like,
to be fair, Ray was an asshole.
He was. Look, that's fine.
Yeah.
But put a scene in.
He gets wrecked.
Yeah,
twice.
Put a couple of more scenes in there to make it seem like, Lucy's being kind of shut out of it. They're married. It's not even like boyfriend, girlfriend either. They're legitimately married, and she moves on within days. Days. So I mean, we were talking about like this movie does move fast, but like I wish they had like
Very
a time
fast.
jump or something to make it feel a little bit more like, oh, it's okay. Like I just like shit, that was quick.
Yeah, there's
Um,
a lot of stuff I would have liked to like. I could have used more time in this movie to flesh out a lot of things.
right.
Fleshing out the relationship between Frank and Lucy obviously is a big one. I would have liked to see more of like Frank wrestling with his past a little
Yeah.
bit. You see a lot of like his past being brought up to him to like kind of torture him because he knows the truth. But I would like to see him kind of like wrestle. I do like the ending of the movie when he gets to see his wife in heaven, and that's it's a great resolution for his character. But I feel like you could have added more to it by having him kind of wrestle with it throughout the
Right.
movie as well. Or even just having more scenes of like him interacting with his wife, like in flashbacks. Like you get like the silent flashbacks with people narrating over it, but you don't really get to see like the actual flashbacks in motion. I would like to see that a little bit more too.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing that it doesn't even bother me because, like I said, I like the movie. I'm not complaining because I didn't like the movie. This didn't ruin my viewing of the movie, even rewatching it now.
Mhm.
Um, but Lucy, at the end of the movie, there is no way that you all of a sudden, out of nowhere, gain the ability to see spirits everywhere, and then hide that fact from the only other person you know that definitely can see spirits everywhere until it's comedically time to do it. Like you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like there's there's no way she didn't just instantly like react to the ghost dog. The ghost dog didn't die. So the ghost dog is probably still around, like just
And
kind of
then
hanging
we
out.
need to see the dog again.
I know. That's my one regret of this movie. But yeah, I get it. I get it in the context of the movie. It was done for the you know the very last chuckle effect type of thing when we get to see the FBI agent in the back
Oh
of the
yeah,
freezer.
Dammers. We didn't even
Yeah,
talk about Dammers. Oh my
we did
gosh.
not talk about Dammers. I wrote some notes about Dammers, but
That
like
guy's another guy that scared the shit out of me. He was creepy.
he is super weird, and I don't. That's the other another part about this movie moving so fast. I feel like we didn't really like. He's creepy, but I feel like if we had had a longer movie, we could have fleshed out just how creepy this guy really
Oh my
was.
god.
Because just in the few interactions we get to this guy, he comes off like a major creep. But like, could you
The
imagine getting?
best. Just are the best. That's just so weird.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
anyways.
So, but anyway, like I said, it's not I'm not complaining. I'm just like little things that like I wanted to mention type of thing. But yeah. So, next we normally do predictions. So I'm going to say like, do you want to do predictions?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. But here's the thing. We get it. There's no other movie. There's nothing coming up next.
It's like a
So
what
yeah,
if.
yeah. So yes, we're doing predictions, but we're doing predictions in the sense of if there was ever going to be a sequel, what would we have kind of liked to see kind of like continue the story or move on next with this in this universe type of thing. So I guess I'll kick it off. What I'd really like to see in like a sequel is maybe like almost like an origin story for Ghostbusters, like the original Ghostbusters movie, where now Frank has kind of, like you said, he's kind of had this big, growth moment, and now he's with Lucy, and these are the only two people that can see spirits and everything like that. And if you notice from, all of like the scenes in the movie, there are plenty of ghosts around. So it's not just like everybody, instantly goes to the afterlife type of thing. So obviously, that leads us to believe that, maybe they're there because they have unfinished business. So what I was thinking was, Frank forever being the businessman, obviously, they have to make money somehow, opens up a business to assist, ghosts and wandering spirits figure out what that unfinished business is or figure out what they need to do to kind of pass on type of thing. And I just think, obviously, I think this one would lean a little bit more comedy side. Like now we can still have like a big baddie. Like maybe there's a reason why, the town is getting overrun with ghosts all of a sudden. Like somehow like no one's getting be allowed to go to the afterlife or something like that. And so Frank has to figure out, what's going on with that. Like that could be the big, problem, I guess, going on for the conflict going out throughout the movie. But I envision scenes of him opening up a business and almost just like Ghostbusters, where like some people believe and they're coming in to try to, get the services going. And we can see scenes where like Frank is his business is totally full of like just spirits and stuff like that. And then people walk in and it looks empty. You go to the scene where like what they would be seeing and the whole room is empty type of thing. And just like seeing the contrast between, him talking to all the spirits and trying to figure this out. And we could have some townspeople that don't believe him and just think it's a big con. And you know what I mean? Like, I just think that kind of thing plays very well into like a ghost kind of comedy and stuff like that. But like I said, we could have a conflict where there's a reason, like him and Lucy start noticing that there are more and more and more and more in spirits, even just in their own town. And they're wondering why, like what's stopping from them, any of them being able to cross over type of thing. We can find out like there's a blockage, like somebody's sealed something, just to kind of have some sort of conflict that needs to go out throughout the movie. But yeah, I just really want to see Frank and Lucy start a business where it's like them just kind of helping figure out what the unfinished business is for each ghost type of thing throughout the city. I just think that would really be really fun. But Rico, what would you like to see? I guess either a continuation in this particular movie universe or like a sequel, set up for a sequel type of thing.
Yeah, it's very interesting to think about because you could probably reboot the movie at some point because obviously you couldn't get Michael J. Fox to come back and be Frank. Like if you're talking like in a non-hypothetical sense, like it'd be cool to kind of take this concept and kind of run with it in today's kind of way of filming. I do think it'd do what you would say was kind of lean more into the comedy aspect of it.
Right.
But man, like if you were to take this story and just kind of and continue it, well, his ghost friends are all up in heaven now. So he's got to find some new ghost friends, I would imagine. Right. There's the Dammers ghost is still there, but he's looking after the cop. But I think you have to find some way to kind of maybe incorporate the Dammers ghost into it. That would be like some kind of like ghost that pesters the Frank and Lucy. Like, hey, you guys are the reason I got killed, and they can do some kind of follow with that. They can do some kind of follow up with Bartlett and Patricia with the way they got brought back down to hell, which was also a pretty rad scene. Like even all these years later, it still looks really cool. Some pretty crazy looking CGI, but it's still pretty gruesome looking in some accounts. But you could do something where someone's got to escape from hell again. They be treading old water, but you'd have to kind of follow up with the old character just because it's like following up to that story. So that's kind of something I'd be interested in seeing. I was thinking something kind of along the same ways of like him going around just continuing his paranormal business that he still has. Lucy was like she's becoming a nurse or something like that, or she was studying medical. She was coming on medical news to a degree, a doctor or something like that. So you can kind of take this like years later. Maybe she's a successful nurse or doctor, whatever it is, and they're living better than they are now, or the house is finished. That Frank finally got to finish his house, right? So yeah, you can kind of do something like that, and then obviously old problems come back to haunt them. I mean, that'd be kind of a fun way to do that. Maybe there's a ghost out there, Patricia's mom, that scared the crap out of people, and she's hanging out in the cemetery somewhere or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's plenty of ghosts that are there. There are those ghosts in the cemetery. So like even his best friends that died, like died and are up in the afterlife, it's fine. Like we get plenty new ghosts in there, and the ghost dog is hanging out.
Ghost dog is still around too. Maybe we can just get a sequel about the ghost dog.
Most important part of the sequel is ghost dog.
Yeah, ghost strays.
Yeah, ghost strays. Well, somebody call up Will Ferrell. I'm sure he'll sign on. It's fun. Yeah. But anyway,
basically all dogs go to heaven.
Yeah, it's a live action. All dogs go to heaven.
There you go.
That's the sequel.
Starring ghost dog.
Itself. Do we have to say like patent pending? Like, what do we say if we don't want before we let this out? I mean, how do we copyright that idea?
That's a good. Yeah, it's good. Write it down.
Let us know in the comments below.
Take it. Yeah, no one take it.
Don't take it. Let us know in the comments below. How do we make sure this idea gets into the right hands but still stays us? Yeah, anyway, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. Have you seen The Frighteners, and are you going to check it out after watching our retro recap on it? And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.